What's up guys, I'm back, and in this video I'm going to show you a step-by-step tutorial on how to take Milky Way photos from your own backyard. And by Milky Way photos I mean, you may have seen like on Instagram or something those beautiful photos of the Milky Way rising up from the horizon, and they're usually taken from like a desert or something. But you can take these kinds of photos from your own backyard if you kind of know the process, and you only need a camera. You don't need a telescope or anything. So I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. Also, this video isn't actually like a new video. I recorded it several months ago for a time when I'd be really busy and wouldn't be able to post, which is now. That's why I haven't posted in like 2 months. But in the future, I'm gonna try to post every month, so I won't have these huge gaps between videos like I have now. So stay tuned for that. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that it's not twilight anymore. And even when the sky seems to be dark, it's still sometimes twilight, and you can check when the twilight times end. If you just look up your city and then sunrise, sunset times and click on the time and date website. And yeah, because you just want to make sure that you have as dark skies as, are possible in your area, because that really makes a difference on how much detail you can see in the Milky Way. All right, it's about 12:30 a.m. where I am right now, so I don't have to worry about twilight. The sun is definitely really far into the horizon. So the next thing you have to do is try to find the Milky Way in the sky. And the way you're going to do that is by looking for what's called the summer triangle, which is a triangle of really bright stars in the sky. And if you can't see this by just looking up in the sky, you could always use an app like Stellarium or Starwalk to kind of see where exactly in the sky it is. And once you find that, the Milky Way basically runs right through the middle of that. So once you find that, you basically have to aim your camera at that location, and then you could start taking photos. So right now I just pointed my camera straight up, and it just so happens that when I do that, I manage to see the summer triangle, which means that if I take a long exposure shot, the galaxy should be going right through the middle of it. It's not, the galaxy kind of goes like all around the sky, but I just find the summer triangle is like a really easy way to spot it. But if you can't see the summer triangle because it's winter time or something, because it is the summer triangle, just use Starwalk or Stellarium or something to try to find another asterism that has the Milky Way running right through it. So once your camera is pointed in the right direction, you could take your first test shot. And I think the best settings for a shot like this is 15-second exposure and an ISO of 2500. It's kind of a good balance between too short and too long of an exposure, so the stars don't start trailing, and the ISO just, I don't know, it looks best when I pull it up on my computer. So let's take our test shot. I set it on a timer so your camera doesn't wobble when you hit the shutter button. And yeah, basically when you finish taking the shot, you want to make sure that the North Star is in the shot. And that's really, really important, because when we stack the photos later, we kind of use the North Star as a reference point. So just keep kind of aiming your camera until you manage to capture, a spot where the galaxy is and the North Star. And if you manage to do both of those, you're in good shape to take these types of shots. So here's the shot that I took, and I'm lucky enough to be in a spot where it's dark enough to already see the Milky Way in just one shot like that. But if you can't, don't worry. The problem with this shot is, even though obviously the Milky Way is there, the North Star is not. I kind of looked around for it and I couldn't find it, and that's going to make stacking these photos almost impossible. So I'm just going to realign the camera and keep shooting until I find a position where I can see the North Star. Alright guys, it took a few more attempts, but I did manage to finally get a shot with the camera in the right position to have the North Star in it, which is this one right here. And if you're wondering how I could tell that's the North Star, I can see the little dipper in the sky, and I know that the North Star is the tip of the handle of that, and then I could compare that to the kind of shapes that the stars make in the sky, and I can be sure that this one right here is indeed the North Star. So now that we have our shot with both the galaxy and the North Star, we can just keep taking a bunch of these shots, and we're going to stack them after. So I'm thinking we're going to take 10 shots, and I connected the camera to my phone so I could take photos remotely, and that way I don't have to bump the camera every time I want to take a new shot. And that just helps out to make sure that the shots don't shift too much, and it makes it easier to stack them. But if you can't do that, it's fine. You could hit your camera manually, but it's just better to do it this way if you can. Bad news, guys. I was 8 shots in, and then I realized that my shots were looking as good as they were before. And then I saw this. The camera is very dewed over, and you know, the temperature outside is below the dew point. So if you're wondering how to solve this problem, the best way is to get a hairdryer and blow that over the front of the camera lens, and that heats it up enough to make sure that dew evaporates again. So I'm gonna go inside and do that real quick, and then I'll come back out and we'll keep shooting. Alright, so I realized that having a blow dryer going in the middle of the night is probably not the best thing, because, you know, the noise, my family, but I just ended up putting my hand over it and wiping it off after, and it seems to be good enough, so we're gonna keep taking more shots. And yeah, I'm thinking, like I said, 10, and I'm gonna restart the 10 because I had to move the camera. And yeah, I'll get back to you guys when I finish. Alright, so the 10 shots are done, and as you can see, after we cleaned up that dew, all of them are looking really nice. And I'll show you what they look like before I cleaned up the dew. They started looking like this, and you could see how much of a, you know, degradation that is compared to the first ones we were getting like that. So as always, we're going to conclude this video, or at least the outdoor portion. I'm going to edit the photos with you guys once the sun comes up again. But I'm going to finish this outdoor portion with, of course, the constellation of the day. So right now I have the camera set up right over there, and it's pointing towards Ursa Major. I don't know, I'm definitely butchering that pronunciation, but basically the Big Dipper is just a smaller part of a bigger constellation called the Big Bear in Latin. And I'm going to be trying to shoot that entire constellation right now. It's a really big one. It goes across like what seems to be half the sky, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to fit it all in the camera frame, but we're going to do our best. And yeah. Alright, so I got our folder with our 10 shots, and we're going to take them and load them into Photoshop now. So take the one in the middle and just drag it into a Photoshop window like that. And then hit open. And then take all the other ones except for that one. And then drag them in next. And then just hit enter a whole bunch of times to put each one in. Alright, so next take all of your shots except the last one and make them opacity 50%. Enter, and then uncheck all of these. And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to start stacking them. So you can see here that they're not aligned because in the time between the shots, the stars seem to move in the sky. And the reason that I told you guys to put the North Star in the picture is because they all seem to rotate around this North Star, as you see. So what we could do to make stacking it a whole lot easier is hit Command T or Control T to transform it, and then make the pivot point for rotations on the North Star. So Option and then click it. And it's not going to be perfect because the North Pole isn't actually on the North Star, it's a little bit off, but it's definitely good enough for our purposes. So once we do that, we can rotate the picture, and the whole thing is going to rotate around the North Star there. So just you know, go in and rotate it until it seems like everything is pretty much aligned, like that. And once you do that, then uncheck this one and check that one, and repeat the same thing and do that over and over again until eventually you have all of them lined up. Alright, here goes the last one. Transform, change the pivot, and then rotate the image until it's about right. Okay, now the next step is to reselect all of these layers. And then since we have 10 pictures, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is make the last one 100, make the second to last one 90, the next one 80, the next one 70, and so on. And this basically makes all of the images kind of contribute the same amount to the final picture, if that makes sense. 20, 10, and let's just double check that we got all those right. Yeah, we're good. And yeah, so you can see now that this picture is definitely a lot less noisy than one of these pictures at 100%. So that's good because it means that we can start stretching the picture. So hit Shift Option Command E to make a stamp. Wait, I have to hit enter. So there's our stamp, and now what we have to do is go layer, adjustment layer, and start off with levels, and hit OK, and then go to a spot in the image that's supposed to be black. So I'd say right up here, this area here should be black. The light pollution kind of makes it a bit yellowish, but that's the whole point of this. So we hit I to get the color sampler, or change it to color sampler, and then hit on a spot that should be black. And yeah, so now we have our levels here, and you can see that red is 24, green is 21, and blue is 12. And our goal is to make all of them the same. So go to red and move this one until it goes down to 12, and move the green until it goes down to 12. And you can see now that spot that used to look yellow looks black, and this whole picture looks kind of more, I guess, natural. It looks more, you basically take the light pollution out of the sky by doing this. So the next step is to go layer, adjustment layer, and curves. And now you can start bringing more detail out of this image. So move this up here a little bit, and you can already see that galaxy starting to pop out. And then you basically keep repeating this process. So make another stamp, make some levels. You can see now red's 19, green and blue are 20. So bring the green and blue down to the 19 like that. And once we finish that, we're just going to keep messing around with the curves until we basically have the nicest image possible. And each time you do a curve, you basically bring out more detail, but you also introduce more noise. So you can see here that if I take out the curve, there's less noise, but it's also less bright. So that's kind of the drawback of doing it. So do it until you kind of have a good balance of detail and noise, and then you know, stop when you're satisfied. So I'm going to do that and show you guys the final result. All right, so I finished everything in Photoshop, and I saved it as a JPEG, and here is our final image. And you can see how clearly you can see the galaxy there. You can see all those stars and the galaxy running right through the picture just like that. So that's basically a simple way for how you could take Milky Way shots with only a camera. You don't need a telescope or a star tracker or anything. And yeah, I think this turned out pretty well. So yeah, see you guys next time.